the Dominion story was really conceptualized by Dr. Baron Bell, who is the professor of art and design at Liberty University. He teaches the only comic book course, master's level course in comic book creation, I believe, and that's, so he's an amazing artist and designer, and so he conceptualized this world of, sci-fi ships and mechs and weapons and anthropomorphic characters. So we don't have, human characters in this. There's lions and crows and lizards, and all of these are populating the world of Dominion. So instead of seeing, direct biblical adaptation in swords and sandals and such, in this version, you're in space. You've got, science fiction battles going on, energy weapons, and gigantic mechs instead of Goliath showing up. It's going to be quite interesting to see what all we can do in this world. But it's definitely visually beautiful and very engaging. So while we're still touching on those biblical aspects, we've got the same name. So like King Saul is a lion, High Priest Samuel is a crow, and then of course, it's planet Bethlehem, and instead of flocks of sheep, it's rumbling vessels of in space that are being captured by King Saul. And so it's all very imaginative, very exciting. They're calling it Star Wars meets Narnia. And so that, I think, is a good way to put it, especially because Narnia, being more of an allegorical approach to the storytelling, with parallels to not only biblical texts, but also kind of the Christian journey. And that's kind of what we're doing with this as well. Well, there's tiebacks to the book of 1 Samuel, and the story plot points, David and Goliath are coming in the story right now, and so those are there, but we also bring in the Psalms and the Proverbs and kind of biblical truths and lessons throughout the story as well.
All right, so as the writer, big question here, Daniel. You have the challenge, the responsibility to, of course, take the story, remain true to the biblical aspects of this story, to the biblical narrative, yet set it in, essentially another world.
Right.
So how is it that you really move in an innovative way while still remaining true to the biblical narrative?
Well, we want to make sure that the spirit of the characters is always true to the biblical story.
Yeah.
We take a lot of license, and I think removing it from the biblical setting and putting it in space gives us some more wiggle room to be able to do that. We can be creative and really, kind of flesh out some of these stories without really edging into the challenging parts of trying to do that with a direct adaptation. So we've got plenty of room to be able to be creative, but how I like to approach this is that these characters are true to how they would behave, and we really allow the parts of the Bible that do speak to their character and to their choices to dictate what it is that we're going to include in our expanded and expounded upon version of the story. So we're taking our time developing, for instance, the family of Saul. King Saul, Prince Jonathan, Queen Ahinoam, and Princess Michal, all of those characters are in this story. But in our version, of course, we've got more elements, more aspects to their characters that emerge than you would in the few verses that touch on most of those characters in the biblical text. So we have to expand it some to be able to develop them as characters. But basically the goal is to always remain very true to what they chose to do in the biblical text, how they behaved, so that as you read it, it's consistent. You could pick up the Bible and read alongside of this and be like, I can see how this would be the expanded story of these characters.
Yeah.